Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to another edition of Friday Morning Live. Today's topic is Citizens Update with Carl Rockman. Today's date, October 24th, 2025. We're happy to have Carl. We'll bring him on in just a second. Getting comments from the Peanut Gallery already. But there's yours truly, Dave Newell. Again, welcome everyone to today's Friday Morning Live. There's a picture of Carl, so we'll bring Carl on in a minute, and he'll have a great presentation about what's going on at Citizens, and certainly answer any questions during the broadcast. And just like normal, if we can't get to all of them, we'll get you off air. But certainly we encourage questions throughout today's presentation. Web-based learning, as you know, we continue to have classes for professional training here at the association. Just blogged this week on several new classes we've added, including a flood class that's eligible for the NFIP certification. Good morning, Diana. And so please check back on a pretty routine basis under the FAI website, under the Education tab, and see what new classes are out there for you to take and grow professionally through the association. Speaking of growing professionally, the education member benefit. Just a reminder, folks, we have 10 hours of webinar-based training through the association. As a member of the association, you and each one of your staff members can get 10 hours of continuing education annually. We're in the process of updating these courses. The constant course will always be the 4-hour law and update class, but we're changing some of the personal and commercial lines classes that'll kick off in January. So again, check back with us to see what those courses are. But that is a member benefit for all agency members of the association. And then upcoming shows. We'll take a couple weeks off from Friday Morning Live, and then on November 14th, we'll have a legislative preview with B.G. Murphy and Laura Pierce. So committee weeks have begun here in Tallahassee, and we hope to have some idea of what the appetite is by the legislature this year for insurance changes. We know we have a workforce initiative that's getting a lot of good buzz up here on what we're trying to do to encourage more people to look at insurance as a career in the high school and state college level. But that'll be on the 14th of November. And then on the 21st, many of you know Patriot Select has hit the ground running with a takeout and voluntary business. They are part of FMS on our market access platform. And so we're going to bring those folks on the show to kind of talk about what they have seen and heard since launching their company and the relationship that they have with FAI member services and the platform. So certainly put those on your calendar and join us for those two shows. And then the last thing before we bring Carl on is if you've missed this episode or you want to share it with somebody or you got to jump off, because we have had several people have had to jump off, we do record these. We add them to the education page under the Friday Morning Live tab, and you'll get to see those shows. Normally we'll have the show posted by Monday. So if you want to listen to it again, or you missed part of it, or whatever the case may be, or you figured one of your colleagues would enjoy listening to the show, please refer them to that page, and they can go in and click the link and listen to it going forward. So, Carl, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dave. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm going to make you a presenter, and you're going to take over the show. So, but yes, I want to welcome Carl Rockman. Carl's been a guest of Friday Morning Live for several years since he's been at Citizens, and he's been a great person for us to go to on issues and concerns that agents are having with Citizens, the takeout process, what's going on in the clearinghouse. So he's going to bring us up to date on a lot of those issues today. And again, folks, we encourage questions. We encourage you to engage with Carl. He is very helpful when it comes to these types of things, and certainly so on and so forth. Carl, before you kick off, just before we went on air, I told you about a situation with our friend Denise, and she is on the call today. And Denise, Carl and I spoke about your issue, and we'll certainly get with you offline. So, but without further ado, Carl Rockman with Citizens.
Great. Good morning, Dave, and thanks again for having us. It's our great pleasure to share a little bit of the Citizens story with the great agents at FAIA. Dave, I'm assuming you can see my screen okay? Everything's coming through?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Perfect. Great. Okay. A lot of you are acquainted with me. We've had about a 12-year journey since I started with Citizens. But in case you don't know me, here's a little bit of my background and what I do at Citizens. I'm essentially accountable for all things to do with agencies, your communication, your education, administration of your appointments, and compliance for all 13,000 agents that are appointed with Citizens. Prior to Citizens, had a 25-year career with Allstate, but had the opportunity to come back and work with Citizens after that long career. My contact information is down below. Should you need any assistance or advocacy, obviously Dave's standing by, but I'm also available for you. And my contact information is right there. But more importantly, I always like to kick off anything that we do with the great folks at FAIA with our support and advocacy network. Okay, a lot of you out there have tapped into our agency management team at Citizens. We have them assigned by geography. Think of these folks as your advocates at Citizens. We want to have a relationship with you, much like a common regular admitted carrier would, where you have someone that is an advocate for you on different issues and things that you might need help with, maybe training, maybe office operations, whatever it might be. These folks are plugged into all things Citizens and are standing by to help. My encouragement to you is things aren't perfect. If you have that situation where you're a little frustrated, something's not working right, maybe it's Depop, maybe it's Clearinghouse, maybe it's something else, you know, after you've tried the regular support network and you're still not where you want to be, give your agency manager a chance at helping. These folks are incredibly talented. They know our systems. They know how to get things done. And I encourage you, please tap into these folks. They're standing by and readily available to give you a hand. Real quick, Dave, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through a quick overview of the big picture at Citizens, and then we're going to get into Depop big time. We're going to get into Clearinghouse big time, and then I want to talk a little bit about a couple of bulletins that we put out over the last couple of weeks. But here's our agent count. You can see we stand at 13,000 appointed agents and 4,800 licensed customer representatives in 5,600 agencies and Citizens. This is a reflection of the large policy count that Citizens has had over the last few years. But do we anticipate maybe this agent count coming down as there's less reliance on Citizens? Potentially it could, but we're standing by to give these agents the support that they need. And we also like to point out that not all agencies are created equal. We do have some agencies that have over 2,000 Citizens policies in force, 26 of them. But you can see the vast majority of our agents are sitting here in this Tier 4 and Tier 5 category, where they have less than 200 Citizens policies. We like that. We like less reliance on Citizens, and I'm sure the agents out there, nothing pleases you more than to get that business in the private market where you can support those admitted carriers. Dave, if there's a headline at all, I'll start with this. This is the headline. Back in January of 2022, Citizens stood at 776,000 policies. And you can see, based on market turbulence, hardening market, litigation issues, we climbed to 1.4 million back in July of 2023. Okay, but you can start to see things climbing down, right? What happened early in 2023? Senate Bill 2A, legislative reforms. You can start to see Citizens policy count dwindle as carriers have more confidence in the marketplace. They expand their capacity. They leverage Depop. You see a little decline. We see that seasonality ramp us back up, but take a look since July of 2024. Look at this. Whoosh. Look at that lack of support. Boom. That line starts to drop to where we're now have the ability. We published this at the MAC, Dave. We're right now, it's Citizens right now, we're forecasting if everything breaks our way, no storms, the capacity holds, but more importantly, Dave, if our new business production stays at the levels we're seeing it, we could literally be at 438,000 policies by the end of the year.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
The mid-range number is 516. Okay. The mid-range number is 516, but the most aggressive number that we can see is 438. Now that a lot of things would have to break our way, but we as citizens could not be more pleased. And I think, Dave, your association echoes this. Less reliance on citizens is an indication of a healthy market. It's good for those private admitted carriers to have that capital at their disposal. And we're very, very committed to make sure that the agents are getting the support they need and the consumers are as well. But this is really, Dave, what's driving the show at Citizens right now is this rapid decline in our business, but that's a reflection of an incredibly healthy marketplace.
Yes, it is. And, you know, stabilization and options for independent agents is always good for the consumer.
Absolutely. And I commented briefly on these numbers. While depopulation has had a lot to do with those numbers, I just like, particularly with agents on the line, to give you the big picture on new business production. Okay. What you're looking at here is residential personal lines business. Look at this row right here. This was the amount of new business we were getting on a monthly basis back in June of 2024. Okay. If you contrast September of 2024, we were getting 26,000 policies a month in. This September, we got 12,000 policies in.
Wow.
So if you follow this line, you can see less reliance on citizens. Plus, there's a little bit of the clearinghouse factor in here that I'll get into. But again, we were up in 35,000 policies, 26, 22. That was the volume of new business we were receiving back in 2024. You can see that's been cut in half, if not more. So thank you to the agents out there that are supporting the private markets. We're really excited about what these numbers mean for us long term. The less business that comes into Citizens, the more stable we will be, and obviously a lot less turbulence for agents if that business is in a private market carrier. More shockingly, Dave, is the commercial. All right, so here's commercial lines, and I know a lot of the agents write exclusively commercial with us. Back in September, we had 132 new business policies come in September of 2024. Back in June, we were getting 274. But take a look at these numbers. Last month, we had a whopping 46 new business policies come into Citizens Commercial.
Wow.
46. Okay, now we know the commercial markets are getting really soft. We know E&S is a player, but Dave, I think you've seen this. We've seen some admitted markets come in, okay, on commercial. We're seeing that in Depop, and we're also hearing good stories about direct admitted markets on commercial. So that's, again, a reflection of a very healthy marketplace, confidence that carriers have in their ability to make returns. And I know the agents probably couldn't be more pleased with those additional opportunities. Okay. And I'll kind of do this, Dave, and then I'll pause for a second.
Okay.
I always like whenever I get the agents together to talk about what I call the road ahead. When you come to these webinars, you like to have a little bit of forecasting on what is Citizens going to put my agency through. I've got Q3 on here because this is more or less the rear view mirror of what we did put you through. Okay. One of the big things we did was the Consumer Awareness Forum in September. We appreciate everyone's support on that very important forum. But let's talk about Q4. We're in October right now, and I want to signal that in October, we had the second largest depopulation in Citizens history. Okay, we were about 300 policies short of 200,000 policies depopped in October. So thank you. That's 200,000 conversations that agents had to have with consumers. Okay, and I tell everyone here at Citizens, you can't do depopulation without an agent. An agent is the key to a successful depopulation because of the advocacy they provide to the consumer, the trusted advice. We put you through a lot, but what's the purpose? Move that business from Citizens to an admitted market carrier. We're very pleased with the October results. I will comment on this. We are going to launch mandatory education for the renewal clearinghouse. I have a little more on that coming in October. And in November, while we continue personal lines and commercial lines depopulations, we will be launching the renewal clearinghouse in November. And Dave, I have a lot of content on that, but this is, again, a road ahead. And if it's in bold, I'm going to drill into it a little bit more on the time we have. Okay. In December, we have another PL depopulation. And then in January, just to round out the road ahead, our new performance program is going to go live. And Dave, I'm going to comment on our new performance program. I know there was some questions that came in. We've heard from agents on what we're doing with the new performance program, and I want to make sure we open that up this morning to get all the questions addressed that the agents might have about that. But more importantly, strategically, we move now to 400,000 coverage A and above requiring flood everywhere. everywhere. Okay, next year is a big moment. 400,000 is a pretty low covey. Anyone 400,000 and above is going to be required to have a flood policy to be written with Citizens or to renew with Citizens. And then the following year, 2027, absent any change in public policy, every Citizens policy anywhere in Florida will be required to have a flood policy, full stop. So I want agents to factor that in to their agency operations, to their economic models. If you're holding a Citizens book, pretty much in about 12 or about 16, 17 months, everybody's going to need a flood policy. Okay, so that's an opportunity, but also something you want to have some awareness around in terms of what it will do. And then we continue the depopulation piece.
Remind us of the stance right now and the bulletin you guys issued regarding flood because of NFIP and the federal government shutting down at the present time.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that important topic up. Very pleased that we got ahead of that, and I'm glad we did because the shutdown has lasted longer than a lot of folks anticipated. A reminder that we issued guidance to agents that we are waiving the flood requirement right now until the NFIP can get back in business. Now, we still encourage agents, if you can put them in the private market flood, go ahead and do it. While we're waiving it on new business and renewal pursuit, we're going to come after it. Okay, we're not going to forget about those folks. So you might as well button it up if you can, but sometimes that NFIP is a little more affordable. We get that. But we did waive the requirement until the government gets back on their feet and opens up NFIP. So no one here should be worrying about bringing a piece of business to Citizens where flood's required right now because we've waived the requirement.
And the aspect of condos, Carl, just remind everybody about the previous requirement and what the current status is of condo unit owners.
Yeah, I believe, Dave, unless I have it incorrect, and you can keep me honest, I believe that we got that cleaned up, that the condo folks do no longer need a flood policy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Okay?
Just want to remind everybody that if you've missed that or it's just you hadn't written an HO6 in a while, that's no longer is a requirement for Citizens.
Okay, super. Okay, Dave, before I move into clearinghouse and Depop and performance and virtual assistants, anything else big picture you wanted to comment on or talk about here?
The only thing I was going to ask with those numbers, when you talk about the biggest October Depop and what's potentially going to happen in November, December, and looking like January, that number is pretty small in compared to 18 months ago. Is there what is that optimal number? Is that even discussed internally with you all?
We have internal discussions on it. We go back to what we consider to be our all-time low, which would be way to the left of this chart. At one point in recent memory, like within the last 10 years, I believe our lowest policy count was around 430,000 in that range. Okay, so if you look at that being kind of the bottom, because let's be honest, some homes are going to be older. Sometimes the appetite isn't there. There's going to be a need to have Citizens for sure. How much remains to be seen. But these carriers, Dave, are a lot more aggressive, and there's a lot more of them now. So we think 430. We don't see maybe going below. We'd like to get there. Could we go below that? Maybe. That's why this number here, 438, is based on predictive analytics, but it's also kind of reflective of what our all-time low was as well.
Well, I bring that point up, Carl, because, we talk about it here at the association, and we just have to remind everybody there is a need for the residual market, especially here in Florida. So there are going to be certain risks that the residual market is the best option. I know it's supposed to be the option of last resort, but there are certain locales, there's certain characteristics of a home that carriers don't have an appetite for. So we just got to keep that in mind on this conversation, because I know sometimes some get a little zealous on 0 being that number, and I don't think that is an option here in the state of Florida for sure.
Yeah, I think everything, Bill. I think there's just some characteristics of properties that even in an aggressive soft market, some carriers are going to have a pause on. And we certainly are here to serve that. So no doubt about it. We'll let that sort itself out in the coming months. But the great news is assessment risk is decreased. And from a citizen standpoint, we're feeling very, very good about this. And we can't thank the agents enough, because this doesn't happen without your support for the big shift in moving customers. and we don't take that lightly, and definitely want to hear from you this morning on things we can learn or do better. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Dave, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to move to clearinghouse. So, Dave, I've got about 4 or 5 slides on clearinghouse, and then I want to get all the questions out on clearinghouse next, if that's okay with you. Okay, super. Okay, a reminder to everybody. The clearinghouse is powered by EasyLinks. These are the carriers on the EasyLinks panel. These carriers now are part of our clearinghouse program, which means if these carriers are able to make an offer on EasyLinks at new business within 20%, it blocks Citizens, okay? Look at that robust panel for new business. I want to focus your attention over here to renewal, because I'm going to talk about renewal in a few minutes. We are going to launch the renewal clearinghouse. Not all carriers are participating in the renewal clearinghouse, okay? That's okay. We've got enough of them, okay, to keep us busy. But when we start talking about renewal clearinghouse, it's going to impact you to the degree that you're appointed with carriers that are on the renewal clearinghouse. Okay, so keep that in mind as I go through the next few slides. Now, big picture. What is this program doing? What impact is it having? New business risks rendered ineligible. This means that when you put it in clearinghouse, does a price come back within 20% of Citizens that ends up blocking the agent's ability to move it to Citizens? Under the old program, these were the results of new business rendered ineligible. This is the result on the new machine. 32% of the new business presented to us is getting some offer that is blocking it within 20%. See the difference? More carriers, more opportunity. That's exactly what we set out to do. But look at the volume. Okay, this is a percentage is great, but this is the number of deals that came to Citizens or were trying to get to Citizens. 43,000 in September. 17,000 couldn't come. Okay, 26,000 did. And look at this, from 65,000 in April, Dave, we think this is also a reflection of less demand for Citizens. There's less agents pushing on the machine to come to Citizens, right? And that's obviously a good thing for us as well. Okay, but I'll comment on this. And the agent roundtable has brought this next topic up. Dave, you have been passionate about Citizens' commitment to the next topic, and that is the machine is not perfect. Okay, we have a process called overrides. You potentially in the new business clearinghouse could get a price back from a carrier, but when you bridge over to that carrier, there may be some additional information that the carrier received that makes it ineligible for that carrier. The premium could swing a bit due to financial scoring, okay? But we have an override process. If that occurs, you can submit an override to us, and we're very transparent about the volume of overrides we're getting, but more importantly, how many are being approved or denied. But more importantly, on top of that is the time service. And what's not reflected on here, and I'm very pleased to report, we're less than a day on these requests right now. We're processing these within hours now, okay? Only because we've staffed up for renewals. So those of you that need this override program, you're getting tremendous turnaround. And even when we stand renewals up, we're committed to turn these around within a day. We know how important it is to get that override request. Okay, we've been living within a day. If any of you are dealing with an override request from Citizens that's taking longer than a day to get a decision, get your agency manager involved, call me, ring the phone. We are really committed to make sure that we do and turn those override requests around within a day. This is generally 6% of the business. About 6% is needing an override of some kind, okay? And I'm not gonna go through this in any great detail, and I've got some build slides in here, David, I'll go through.
Okay.
All right, Dave, any questions on new business?
Yep. Can we, agents asking, Maria's asking, can we submit the guidelines to, as backup to the override?
Yeah, Maria, here's what we do. I wouldn't burden you guys to send us underwriting guidelines or rules and rates manuals, and here's why. I'll give you a great example. Water heater is a very common one that comes up for an override. Okay, the water heater is plus 20 years of age. You know that carriers won't take a water heater that's over a certain age. As long as you can submit that to us on an override form, you can say carrier X, I'm getting a return from carrier X, it's for the water heater. If you submit to us proof that that water heater is the age you say it is, typically the 4-point, we are using Fetch. A lot of you are familiar with the Fetch tool. So we're working with Fetch where we can go in and just say, does carrier X take a water heater over 20? And if Fetch tells us they don't, we're fine. We're good. We don't need you to submit that to get a decline. In fact, really need your help here. Where we can avoid you going to the carrier to get a full decline, we like that. We don't want to burden the carriers with business that they've trained you not to submit and they don't want. And in most cases, Fetch can define yes, the carrier won't take it. So my encouragement to you is if it's a property condition, age of roof, electrical, there's some condition that you know the carrier is not going to accept when you submit the new business, prove it to us, give us the override form, we'll use Fetch, and if we can't really determine it in Fetch, we'll get back to you and maybe work something out.
You know, along those lines, and you and I have had these discussions, unfortunately, on a few agents that have been caught up in some form or fashion of this documentation issue. But where can agents go, Carl, to make sure they fully understand the override process? Is there a website? Is there a tutorial? How does that work?
Yeah, subsequent to this, Dave, on our agent training portal, on the agent portal under the training tab, you'll see that we have recorded webinars, we have operational guides, we have a lot of information on the new business clearinghouse, and we're starting now to post our renewal clearinghouse information. Really encourage agents, if you haven't taken the online education on the new business clearinghouse, go ahead and do it. We made that voluntary, Dave. We're not repeating that with renewals, okay? With renewals, I'm about to share with the agents and we've communicated, we're gonna put mandatory education on the agents for renewal clearinghouse because it's that important. But resources, education's available. If you have questions and need additional support, reach out to that agency manager who is standing by to consult with you and your agency on how the operation works, what they've seen in other agencies, and give you the support that you need.
Yep. You know, I can't, and I know Carl's mentioned it a few times, we can't stress enough building a relationship with that agency manager. They are a great resource. They're there to help. They're there to facilitate. So if you've not met yours or you don't really have any reason to reach out anyway. Get to know them. At least if you have a problem, they can probably short circuit it and get it moving versus some of the other channels that agents have access to. And so certainly recommend getting to know, understanding who your agency manager is, so on and so forth. Hey, Carl, before we move into the clearinghouse renewals, I missed this question from Nicole when we were talking about the numbers. The numbers you're talking about, are they wind only, or is that a global number when we talk about the policy count?
It is only on global. Let's go back to all this. These numbers here are reflective. If she's talking about this slide, Dave, it's all in. Everything here is all of our policies.
Yep.
For this information is HO3 and DP policies, DP1s, DP3s, and condos. Okay, so depending on the context of her question, this 43,000 here represents HO3, DP1 and 3, and condo policies, because those are the only forms we have on clearinghouse.
All right, Nicole, hopefully that answered your question. If not, put something else in the chat and we'll make sure it's clarified. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, Dave, well, let me keep rolling. I didn't want to make it a full train. Okay, so let's do renewal. I need everyone's help. A big part of the clearinghouse program, statutorily driven, okay, it's a statutory requirement that we have a clearinghouse program and that include renewals. We're now ready to take the EasyLinks platform and apply it in a renewal capacity, okay? Why are we doing it? Well, one, the statute drives it, but more importantly, I want to remind the agents in your new agreements, and these are actually in the old agreements as well, you do have in your agent agreement the requirement to market your business at renewal. Okay, now, easier said than done. I want to be able to support you in that effort, and we believe that this is a good faith effort to help you remarket your book by standing up this renewal clearinghouse where we can take your HOs, DPs, and condos and put them into the renewal clearinghouse to see if anybody else wants them. Okay, so this is an important part of our clearinghouse program, and it really rounds it out now that new business is completely operational. Okay. Now, here is the big thing about the renewal clearinghouse. And this is a commercial. We are going to have a lot of training, mandatory training. You're going to hear a lot more on this, but let me give you the big picture and the big things that you need to be aware of. What we do on your Citizens HO3 DP book and condo book, we are going to send those, Citizens will automatically, with no intervention from you, we're going to send those policies to EasyLinks, okay, to the clearinghouse. And those carriers that you're appointed with on EasyLinks are going to return, yes, I like it, no, I don't. Or more importantly, they're going to ask an additional question or two. Okay, we call those recoverable errors. We're going to do that on day 60. Okay, between day 60 and day 53, agents have the opportunity to work on the clearinghouse to answer questions that might be asked to see if a decision is going to come back yes or no. Okay, if a carrier though makes an offer within 20% on renewal, much like new business, Citizens is going to non-renew the policy. We have the ability to non-renew the policy with 53 days notice. Right, this feels a lot different than another non-renewal where it's 120 days notice. Everyone with me? This is a renewal selling cycle. This is a renewal phenomenon. So when we feed your book to EasyLinks and a carrier comes back with a price within 20%, we're going to non-renew that business with 53 days notice. You as the agent will then have the opportunity to place the business with the carrier making the offer, or place the business with any other carrier that you might have an opportunity to do business with. But the point is, the policy is going to be non-renewed from Citizens. Okay, that's the big piece that I want to bring everyone's attention to. Now, between day 53 and day 0, sometimes it can take some time for you when you bridge over to the carrier making an offer. It's a new business policy to them, isn't it? Yes, inspections will be required. Yes, anything that they need for new business isn't waived, at least at this early stage, okay? You may have an underwriting decision that comes in the middle here where it's not eligible. All you have to do is come back to us and we will lift the non-renewal. We'll take the non-renewal away, right? So we have between day 53 and day 0 to continue the Citizens relationship, but we're going to need you as the agent to make sure that, you know, either that offer is legitimate or there's some turbulence in it. But we will unwind the non-renewal and bring it back into Citizens. Okay. The big thing though, and I don't want to make this a full training session, but the big thing I want you to have on your mind is recoverable errors. We've been piloting the renewal clearinghouse in agencies over the past 6 weeks. We have discovered that most policies are going to have a recoverable error. It's a very quick answer. Typically, it's something you can find in Policy Center to add in, but most policies are going to have 1 or 2 questions that will need you to address. Just hit a button and that clears up the data and gets better decisioning. Okay, so recoverable errors will be a big part of our training effort and our awareness effort. Okay, and I think we'll show this, Dave, and then we'll talk about the rest. Here's where we are. We've been piloting the renewal clearinghouse since the 18th of September. We've had 9 pilots, agencies that have really informed us on how this thing is working. Mandatory agent education, let me hit on this now. We've only pulled this card twice in my time here at Citizens. One when we did cyber, and we're about to pull it a second time. When we do mandatory education, it means what it is. It's mandatory. I need the agents to engage or there's a consequence, okay? We're going to launch that on 10/28. We're going to give you until January 6th. I'm going to give you plenty of time to take the education, and it might be 15 minutes, it might be 20 at tops. It's not a laborious CE style education. But what it's designed to do is make you and your staff aware, this is renewal clearinghouse, this is how it works, this is what's going to happen, this is the consequence. And then it's also going to give you screen by screen how to process the renewals. They're very similar to new business quoting, but a little twist here and there. Really encourage you to take the education, and then, as you know, we are going to do webinars. We're going to have a complete webinar series that's going to run from 10/30 through the 2nd of December. But more importantly, we're also going to be launching. We're going to launch the renewal clearinghouse in phases. We are not going to big bang every agency. We've got the agencies in Florida divided up into 4 tranches. The first agency will be activated on the 4th of November, and then you can see the subsequent tranches. Agency principals will be getting notice of what tranche you're in and when to expect it. Those are rolling out as we speak, okay? So this is really the rollout time frame. I say for the agents on the line, close your eyes. The month of November, have your focus and attention on renewal clearinghouse and take the mandatory module, come to the webinar. The pilot agencies, once we got them through a little bit of the screen flow, they seem fine with it. So I think we've got a good operational process, but like anything new, it's just going to take some attention and a few repetitions for you to get it under your belt. Okay. Dave, any other questions on renewal clearinghouse before?
Yeah, let's kick off a few. And again, I know this comes up. We ask it just about every MAC meeting, and I know it comes up in other board meetings at the citizens level. Denise wants to know how many policies are coming back, Carl, returning to citizens because the Depop carrier's actual renewal offer comes in excess of 20%. So that's kind of question number one. What does that percentage look like?
I'll just jump ahead. So here we obviously monitor rigorously. We monitor rigorously any policy that's Depop that then comes back to us as new business, particularly since we started to crank up Depop back in June of 2023. Okay, so to bring this slide to life, what does this slide represent? These policies in this line were assumed June of 2023. There was one carrier, 17,000 were assumed. We've had 982 come back to us as new business, 5%. Okay, 7% here. It takes a little while for these to mature, but if you look at this from June of 2023 all the way through, we've had about 2.2% come back. Okay, now we hear, but Carl, they all come back. All we're doing is rewriting the business. All we're doing is bringing it back to you. This Depop thing is not from what we see. Not from what we see. It's not perfect, but also, Dave, while I've got the floor and the topic, we also built, for this very reason, if they do have to come back to citizens because the offer price may have been adjusted when the actual renewal comes out, we have a program where you can bring the customer back, where we waive photos, waive 4 points, waive certs, waive WLM. We waive everything but an application. Okay, and the customer can come back through. They have to come back through the clearinghouse, but they can come back to citizens with no administrative burden. Okay, and that's a piece that we wanted to put on the street because we knew there could be circumstances where you might need to utilize that.
Okay.
So Dave, you think that addressed the question?
I think so. Yeah, Denise, let us know if anything additional, but that is a topic that comes up routinely at any meeting that I attend and any meeting that we're aware of with citizens. They keep a close eye on that. I know if you're going through it as an agent, it could be a burden. Hopefully that gives you some relief for the returning depopulation risk, but it is a topic that a lot of people have questions about. And so hopefully that number will continue to stay as small as possible, especially with the marketplace. I think we've answered this. Danielle had a question when you were going through the renewal timeline. How does this apply to policies mid-assumption? So I think you kind of answered that, but Danielle, if he didn't, just pop something else in the question pane. And then the last one is Danielle said she missed it. Okay.
Okay.
Get back to that.
Well, here, let me address it, Dave. I think I know where Danielle's going.
Okay.
And I need to include this in the slide for clarity, but when we talk about the renewal clearinghouse, when I say that I'm going to feed your HO, DP, and condo book to it, that's true with a couple of exceptions. Okay. I'm not going to feed it if it's assumed policy or it's under assumption. I'm not going to feed those that are in the marketing period. Okay. So we're going to air traffic control. The last thing I want is a policy that's been depopped or that's in the process to hit this renewal machine. Okay. I don't want that to happen, and we think we've built the right toll gates to prevent that from happening.
Okay.
Okay. So those of you that are going through a lot of depop, that's actually probably a good thing because it's going to reduce the amount of burden you're going to have on the renewal clearinghouse. So I'd like you to think about it that way. If you've been having a lot of depop this year, take a deep breath and be thankful, because that means I won't be feeding the renewal clearinghouse. Those of you that maybe haven't been impacted by depop, your book's going to get pushed through that. It could be a little bit more for you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think we've got that. Danielle, if still some questions about that, certainly let us know. And then Denise was talking about, as you were going through the process of the clearinghouse and maybe having to get additional inspections or information to make sure the risk is eligible, that costs the consumer money, right? There's increased costs there. She's got a great question here. How is that being shared with the general public? The agent can only do so much, but how can we make sure that information is out there for the public to understand potentially there's costs associated with some of this.
Yeah, there's two things. One, there is a pre-renewal communication that we send to the customers that we're looking at updating to get them a little bit more aware of what might happen to them. And we're looking at putting that together. But we know sometimes customers don't have or take a lot of time to pay attention to sometimes things that are tucked into the mail. The second thing with this rollout is we have a consumer-facing video. We anticipated agents having a tough time explaining to the customer, why am I being moved out and why do I have to do these administrative things that I typically don't have to do when I'm Depop, right? I think everyone would agree on Depop, it's a smooth transition.
Right.
With this, with Renewal Clearinghouse, it's a new business application that the carrier has every right to demand inspections and things like that. So we put the video together. I'm going to go back to the video, Dave, and see. I'm pretty sure we included a little something on that. Okay. But if not, it's a quick ad for us to add that message in there, at least to let the consumer know we acknowledge that that's not great, but it's something you're going to be required to do, and try to take some of that burden off the agent so the customer doesn't feel like it's all something the agent created.
Yeah. Again, Denise says, just what you mentioned, that letter can be a lot long and boring, right? And we're accused in this industry of being boring. So maybe if you put a little more jazz to it, maybe the consumer will read it. But that video, how would will agents be able to use that and be able to distribute that to clients?
Yes, it's part of our training. And when you get to the mandatory module and you come to the training webinars, we'll show you. It's going to be a public link that you can post. You can put it, you can send it to consumers. We built it with the policyholder in mind. Okay. So we're encouraging you guys, if you have someone that maybe have a tough conversation about what happened and why, we put that video together. We call it a little TikTok video. It's very quick and easy to consume and not very complicated, but it's going to support the messaging if someone is caught up in this. And Dave, I'll tell you from the pilot, I don't want to get ahead of the news here, but we have been piloting this. While we did see a lot of recoverable errors, and I say error isn't a problem, it's just an additional question that we need the agent to address. A lot of the business is retaining the citizens. There was some niche. We did see a percentage of business that had to move, but I would say to the agents right now, the early returns on this looks like it's going to be more of a validation to stay than something that is going to consume you to move stuff out. Now you might say, well, Carl, why do it? It's important that we do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's important because conditions change, risks can change, and having that shopping mechanism at renewal is very important. So come to the training and we're going to give you a little more oversight, but I would say, I want you to be aware of the Renewal Clearinghouse. I want you to be aware that it's going to start, but what we're seeing from the pilot is if you fed 10 renewals into the clearinghouse, you might have one of those or two of those that might need some attention in terms of rolling to another carrier. The rest look like they're going to validate to stay, is what we're saying. Which means no non-renewal, the customer's not informed, and it's just an issue that you'll have to deal with, but there's no consumer turbulence that could come from a complete non-renewal.
Yeah, just a couple more things and then we'll move on. Carl, the 20% rule, that was determined by the Florida legislature, correct?
That is a statutorily driven thing, both for clearinghouse. It's always been part of clearinghouse, but now it's also part of depopulation. Yeah. And that's been the biggest shift in depopulation, where consumers used to have a choice to stay with Citizens regardless. But for the clearinghouse, yes, it is a legislative thing. And Dave, to make any changes or enhancements there would require a legislative push to get us to change.
Last thing, and we just for Depop, and then we'll move on. Are agents required to contract with each carrier that wants to Depop? Are they required, Carl?
Here's what I would say. For depopulation, we've had a philosophy that agents can look at the LSA, and if you don't accept the LSA, then that carrier can't work with your policies. So I publicly stated that, Dave. We've stated that before. We've stated that in the past. When I say that, though, we need your support. Okay, these carriers have been vetted by the office has approved their financial condition. I know everyone out there has been through the past, but we have high confidence, particularly with the legislative reforms and the regulators' oversight of their financial stability, If these carriers are approved for depop, we don't see any reason why you wouldn't sign. Okay, and if agents aren't signing LSAs, it typically can come to me and I'll ask some questions. So you know what I'm signaling, Dave?
Yeah.
Technically, no, but boy, do we need your support. We need your help in supporting these new carriers that are coming in. And Dave, we've talked a lot. We need these carriers to step up with websites and download and the other things they need to support agents, not just, depop letters. So we're continuing to beat that drum, particularly with the newer people, and we're going to continue to, ride them until, things get where they need to be. But technically, no, I don't want to mislead anybody, but obviously we need everyone's support.
Catherine, from our perspective here at the association, we certainly encourage agents to take a hard look at that carrier. We have been fortunate to deal with many of these. We look at their limited servicing agreements. Laura Pierce, our general counsel, reviews those, makes comments. We just had one this week that had an issue, went back to the carrier. They made the change to make it better and more palatable for the independent agent. So I know it's not perfect, but certainly take a hard look at those things and just to make sure it fits in your business model. But that's what we can say about it. We encourage it. It's something that is certainly needed, especially with the stability of the marketplace. So.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, John Clearinghouse?
Oh, that's about it.
Okay. All right. I'll move through depop very rapidly because I want to get to the virtual assistants and the performance program, David. We've covered some of this depop already in the Q&A. I just want to call out the carrier participation, 16 carriers participating this year. Okay. And a couple of new entrants coming in, Apex Star, and where's the other one here? I'm thinking Praxis, Dave. But we talked about these two guys coming in for November and coming in for December. So agents should be seeing LSAs and things from those two new carriers. But take a look at this carrier participation. This is a reflection of increased capacity, increased appetite. A lot of these are names that you guys have journeyed with forever, and some of them are new. But this is welcome to the Florida marketplace. Welcome to the marketplace where competition is going to reign. Okay, I think we're going to see carriers come in because now they can make a fair rate of return. These are the results, Dave. We talked about them in general. 216,000 policies assumed through September, but then, as I mentioned, the October depop, this slide has not been updated yet based on yesterday's results, but we had another 200,000. So we're about 416,000 depop policies for the year. Okay, so thank you to the agents out there to help us get that accomplished. Okay. And then we talked about the returning depop already. We keep a close eye on that. And we talked about return on depop. And then this is just the calendar. We're rounding out 2025 for personal lines with a November and December assumption date. And then 2026, guys, it's not going to slow down. Okay. You can see that we're going to run this many personal lines assumptions next year, and then this many commercial lines assumptions. Depop is not going away. Okay. We anticipate, well, we got the bulk of it out over the last 2 years. We do think there'll be some tail and some increased interest and participation to keep the machine moving along. So stand by and we'll be listening and see what support you need. Okay.
Carl, you mentioned specifically Apex and Praxis, and we can't shy away from Mainsail as well.
Yeah.
Emerald Bay is the MGA for them, but we've had the fortune to have a great conversation with the folks at Praxis. Laura reviewed that contract. That was one of the ones we had some comments on. They looked at it and agreed. So they're making some adjustments on that limited servicing agreement. We're in the middle of reviewing the Apex contract now for any issues. And we have reached out to Mainsail and Emerald Bay about their particular agreement. So if you have questions about these new entrants, please send us a note, me or Laura Pierce, and we'll be glad to answer those questions. We're in the process of kind of vetting those LSAs to make sure some of the things that are important to independent agents are included in those contracts. So just wanted to pass that. Ownership of expirations, folks, as Barbara points out, is the number one thing that we look at, and certainly indemnification is number two. So
there you go.
Yep.
And great support from FAI, Dave. Great support that you give the agents on those contracts. So thanks for doing that. Give them some help.
Yep.
Okay, Dave, you're okay. I'm gonna slip to these two topics. I'm gonna close up with these two because I think these are very important topics. We'll take the time and the balance of the time to address questions here or anything else in general. These are two agent updates that we sent over the last 2 weeks. I'm gonna leave performance program for last. I do want to talk about the guidance we issued on the use of virtual assistants. This has been something that's been asked for a while. As VAs became more popular, as we came out of COVID, there was a lot of requests from us to get firm guidance out to agents on what our stance is on the use of virtual assistants. So with conversations with our privacy department, looking at statute, but more importantly, Dave, I'll throw a shout out to your great team and the recent guidance that you guys created for agents on use of VAs. We were in separate rooms, but ultimately we came out aligned. We were thinking much the same things that you guys were as well on guidance to agents on some things they need to be aware of if they're going to use VAs. But here's the takeaway for citizens, okay? We're saying right now, virtual assistants operating outside the continental US and requiring a use of a shared credential can't use our system, full stop. Okay, but Carl, why are you guys so different? No other carrier puts me through that, Carl. Why? We're different because we are and we have to be, because of who we are, what we do, the standards that we have for information privacy and security. We're not going to apologize for it. We're going to take a tough stance on this, and we believe it's the right thing to do, okay? So other carriers, what they do is what they do, but for citizens and with our image and our exposure, we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to appropriately protect our data. I know this presents an operational, believe me, I get the operational part of this in agencies. Okay, we struggled over this guidance, but we believe it's the right thing to do to take a firm stance here on use of VAs that are outside the US. Inside the US, you can read this piece of it, okay? For virtual operating outside the continental United States are governed by laws related to insurance transactions. And again, this is the blog post that the FAI gave us permission to post to kind of support our message as well, okay? And then we're going to continue to monitor the sharing of credentials. So Dave, I know some questions came into you for VAs, and maybe I prompted a question out there with the group. I'll pause here to maybe get some talk going on this stance and what it means.
Well, again, those that were at convention, we did a VA class. There was a lot of buzz around it. We're getting ready to put together VA 2.0 for some additional questions that came in after convention that Greg Thomas has answered. A couple of his blogs have generated questions. It's just, we're to the point in this environment where we have to be careful. We have to be careful. There's so much information that it can be gotten by people outside of our confines of the U.S. And so the guidance is we just got to be more careful, more diligent, and be using people that you have trust in. There's E&O implications here as well. Carl doesn't mention that, but we certainly, from an association standpoint, we write a lot of agents E&O through our Swiss Re program. And so those are just concerns that we have. And, again, Citizens is doing this because they feel that a lot of agents were asking about some guidance. And so now there's some guidance out there. We certainly have our view of it. We've publicized that. We'll continue to answer those questions. So I think, Carl, we just, do the best we can with the information. And certainly, but as Greg mentioned many times during that class and certainly on his blog, that's the current laws. These are the laws of Florida. And so we have to kind of abide by those. And when the laws change, we can adjust our tactics. But currently, that's the guidance here.
Okay. All right. Any questions coming in, Dave, from the chat room? Or
I didn't see any, and so I think we're good there. Yep.
Okay. Well, before we close, people can certainly throw in there. We'll leave a little time as I finish up the performance program. Okay, if anyone has a thing. Okay, so the second bit of news is changes to our agent performance standard program. Agents will commonly refer to this as performance violations and late submissions. It's that program that we've had for 10 years or so, but it was time to change the program. It wasn't really doing what it was intended to do, and that's improve the quality of the submissions coming into Citizens because of the way the program was engineered. Okay, so we did make some changes with the awareness of our ART and our stakeholders. While there was some combative and productive conversations from our stakeholders, Citizens felt compelled to come out with this newer program, and that's what I want to cover with you today. Now, the first takeaway is the new disciplinary process is effective January 2026. So what does that mean? It means it's effective January 2026, but what we're doing now between October and the end of the year is my agency management team is highly engaged, working with agencies and agents that when the clock turns in January, if they don't get some attention on the performance violations, there's going to be some tough stuff happening when the calendar turns. So we're looking at this as kind of a settle-in and probationary period. My point is, if an agency manager is contacting you or reaching out to you, please take that phone call because we're trying to get your attention to offer the prescriptive help, okay, that we need to make sure that you have in order to not fall into a place where the program is going to trip you up a little bit, right? Let me hit PVs first, Dave.
Okay.
All right, so performance violations, guys. When we talk about performance violations, we're talking about agents submitting risks that are ineligible or risks that are uninsurable, okay? Those are two big topics. What I want to point out to everybody is we are giving you guys binding authority, okay? We like you guys having binding authority, and you like having binding authority. Can you imagine if every submission had to get approved before you could bind it in Citizens? It would be impossible. So the big reason we changed the standard was we wanted to hold and maintain that binding authority that you have. The old program had a lot of slack in it, okay? We had a lot of agents submitting a lot of PVs, but I couldn't put them in a discipline program because of their submission volume. New program, if you have a PV 01 or 02, if you want after January 1st, if you accumulate 3 PVs, we have a warning notice for you. Once you get the warning notice, if you get 3 more, your agent, and this is an agent-driven thing, not an agency thing. This is an agent program. It's a 30-day suspension. 1 more after that, then we move to a different place where our relationship severs, okay, after the suspension. Okay, now this is some tough medicine, but we also have worked with our underwriting department. You can expect our underwriting department to be a lot more diligent and precise about the PVs they issued. We work with them to say this is a tough standard for the agents, but we need you guys to support, maybe making sure that those PVs are tight and only for things that aren't really close calls when it comes to property condition. Okay, and then last piece, Dave, in the minute I got is, for the other PV 3s and 4s, we're going to aggregate those, and we're only going to work with the top agents that need help, all right? I don't think anyone on this phone is going to fall into this category. I just want everyone to pay attention to the PV 1s and 2s, okay? And if you've got an issue with those, we'll be reaching out to you. And then last thing, Dave, was late submissions. The late submission standard, we are going to be moving from the violation now occurs on 16 days after the effective date, 16 days if your docs aren't uploaded. There's a performance violation. We're going to be moving that to 5 days. So 5 days post-effective date, no docs, there's a late submission, okay? And then that has its own categories and discipline as well, okay? So we're rolling this out the last quarter. There'll be a lot of communication. We'll be doing different things with it, but we're just raising the awareness, but no consequences until the end of January, unless some agent just goes completely rogue, and we'll reserve the right to get after them. Dave, I know we're close on time, and I wanted to make sure we had enough time for a question or two towards the end. So anything else you have?
Yep. Any questions, folks? Certainly pop it in the question pane, the few minutes we have left. Let me look here and see what we got, Carl. Yeah, Barbara, I'll get with you offline on that. And Danielle, I mean, you bring up a good point as far as, when these new carriers come into vogue and they do the LSAs, and they're adding all these additional policies, how are they staffing up? We can certainly, I know Carl has conversations with these carriers and his team to talk about the resources they're going to lend to agents. So Carl, any words on that of when you're talking to these new entrants as far as how they support agents that are taking these policies? and moving them out of Citizens to the private market?
Yeah, while the Office of Insurance Regulation approves them, we work with the carriers way upstream, and we are very, very aggressive about our stance about agent support. Everything from systems to download, to staffing. And they're aware of it, and we put extra emphasis on it. Now, whether they're living into it or not, the folks on this call are my best measure. So my call to everyone on the call is, if you're feeling a little lack of support from any particular depot carrier, bring me up, let your agency manager know. We want that feedback, because it helps us then coach those carriers. You can also complain to them all you want, but it doesn't hurt if you kind of let us know, because it just helps us pick up our game. We have relationships with those carriers. We're all in it together. And if some of them are not really delivering to the point that you feel is effective or good, then certainly please complain, let us know. It's the only way things will change, if we create a little energy around it. So let us know for sure, but certainly get with that carrier as well.
Yeah. Well, again, Carl, thank you so much. There's really not a lot more. We've addressed most of the questions came in during the conversation. So if we get any more, we'll certainly reach out. But thank you again. We can't express more deeply the relationship that FAI has with Citizens and the team to continue this dialogue, to continue to have conversations that are troublesome for some agents. Wherever it is, whether it's Depop, whether it's renewal clearinghouse, whether it's new business, whether it's just, a process that they're having a little trouble with. You see it on the screen there. Certainly reach out to Carl or Kelly or anybody on that screen that can help you in some of those issues. And I know for a fact, because you all have done it many times for many of the members that have asked, Carl, you'll go in and train agents in their offices. You'll do on-site training. So if that's something you feel is helpful for your team, certainly don't hesitate to ask for that.
Please, and we really encourage you. Everything from on-site to Zoom call, whatever we can do to help you operationally, these folks can help, as well as advocacy on individual policy concerns. So please connect with them, wear them out. Don't suffer in silence, please.
But again, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If you have anything else, certainly put it in the question pane or reach out to Carl directly or myself, and we'll certainly be glad to help. So have a great weekend, folks. Enjoy the weather. I don't know what it is in your part of the state, but it was 48 degrees here in Tallahassee this morning, so it was very nice. Getting a little cooler weather. Fall is in the air. So take care, folks, and we'll see you next time on Friday Morning Live. Nicole says, beautiful 80s and breezy. I like it, Nicole. So take care, Carl. Thanks again.
Thanks, Dave. We'll see you.
See you. Bye.